dressed the kids and took them to the roadside and put them in a vehicle. I'm about 80% sure I know who was driving the vehicle. I know who was in the vehicle. And before they realized what happened, things blew up so quick.
For months, silence has surrounded the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. But now, one voice has finally broken through. Witness Logan has spoken, and what he claims to have seen on the night the children vanished could unravel the entire RCMP timeline. It's the statement no one expected, the crack in the silence that has turned this case upside down. For weeks, investigators have been focused on reconstructing the final hours of Daniel Martel's day. His phone records, his movements, the unexplained blackout in his digital trail. Every scrap of information was examined under a microscope, piece by piece, to build a timeline that could finally explain what happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan. But then Logan came forward. His words didn't just add to the timeline, they disrupted it entirely. What he described pointed to moments and actions that had never been part of the RCMP's narrative. Details that forced a reevaluation of what investigators thought they knew, and raised the possibility that the original picture of events was deeply flawed from the beginning. If Logan's account is true, suspicion doesn't just rest on one person. It shifts, it spreads, it challenges the alibis that had once seemed solid. His statement suggests that those critical hours weren't simply blank spaces waiting to be filled. They were active, pivotal moments that could hold the answer to the children's disappearance. And that means everything we thought we knew about May 2nd, 2025 is incomplete. The official timeline may be fractured. The carefully constructed story, built on fragments of testimony and shaky recollections, may not only be inaccurate, it may have hidden the truth in plain sight. For the people of Nova Scotia, Logan's words don't just raise questions. They expose an even darker possibility. That from the very beginning, the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan was never fully understood, and perhaps never fully told. According to the RCMP, one of the most haunting elements of this case has always been Daniel Martel's phone records. At exactly 12:15 p.m. on May 2nd, his phone went dark. No calls, no pings, no traceable activity. For 48 minutes, it was as though he had simply vanished off the grid. Then at 1:03 p.m., the device reconnected, this time near the Sullivan home. That unexplained blackout has been described by investigators as the missing gap, a stretch of time that could hold the key to everything. What happened in those 48 minutes? Why did the phone suddenly go silent? Was it deliberate, an attempt to conceal movements, or merely coincidence? Witness testimony has only added confusion. Some say they spotted Martel near McPherson's Lake, a remote and heavily wooded area that would be nearly impossible to search completely. Others are adamant they saw him back near the Sullivan property, a detail that would place him at the center of the children's disappearance. Both accounts cannot be true, and yet both remain unverified, floating as fragments in a puzzle with no edges. Up until now, those minutes have existed only as a void, a mystery sealed by silence and contradiction. But with Logan's statement, that void is no longer empty. For the first time, someone has directly tied those lost hours to the fate of Lilly and Jack. And if his testimony proves accurate, it doesn't just fill the gap. It reshapes the entire investigation, forcing everyone to confront the chilling possibility that what happened to children occurred within that narrow window of time. The missing gap may not just be a mystery anymore. It may be the moment the truth about Lilly and Jack was sealed. Logan's account doesn't just add another layer to the case. It changes everything. For the first time, someone has stepped forward with details that directly connect Daniel Martel's behavior to the children in the critical hours before they were reported missing. According to Logan, on the night of May 2nd, just hours before Malaya Brooks-Murray told authorities, she awoke to find Lilly and Jack gone. He spotted Martel outside near the Sullivan property. Martel wasn't calm. He wasn't composed. He was pacing back and forth, chain-smoking, agitated in a way that stood out in the stillness of the rural night. But that wasn't all. Logan swears he heard voices near the tree line, children's voices. The sound carried faintly through the dark, close enough that he couldn't mistake it. If true, this means Lilly and Jack were outside the home that night, contradicting the mother's claim that they simply slipped out unnoticed the following morning. The scene only grew more unsettling. After a few tense minutes, Martel disappeared into the woods, swallowed by the blackness beyond the yard. Not long after, Logan says he noticed something unusual, a pair of headlights cutting briefly across the gravel road. A second vehicle, unfamiliar, moving quietly, deliberately, in the direction of McPherson's Lake. Then silence again. If Logan's account is accurate, it introduces two shocking elements never before confirmed. That the children may have been alive and outside the home the night before they were officially reported missing, and that a second, unidentified vehicle could be tied to their disappearance. This revelation doesn't just stretch the timeline, it shatters it. Because if Lilly and Jack were last heard near the tree line on May 2nd, the question is no longer when they vanished. The question becomes, who was with them, and what really happened after those headlights disappeared toward the lake? Here's where the tension sharpens, because Daniel Martel's story and Logan's account cannot coexist. Martel told RCMP he never left the house during those crucial hours. He said he was inside with Malaya Brooks-Murray, watching TV, a perfectly normal evening. But Logan's statement tears that alibi apart. If Martel was outside, pacing near the tree line with the children's voices faint in the dark, then his denial isn't just suspicious. It could be a cover. And then there's the vehicle. Logan insists he saw headlights on that gravel road, a second car moving quietly toward McPherson's Lake. If that's true, someone else may have been involved. Someone Martel doesn't want investigators or the public to know about. So the question becomes, why would Martel lie? Was he protecting himself or protecting someone else? Because a second vehicle suggests coordination, planning, not a random disappearance. Investigators, for their part, have not confirmed Logan's testimony. They haven't denied it either. But online discussions and whispers from people close to the case suggest RCMP are treating his statement seriously. Reports hint they've already followed up on vehicle sightings in the area, checking surveillance, canvassing nearby roads, and cross-referencing with known associates. If those leads pan out, Logan's account may be the key that explains everything. The missing gap in Martel's timeline, the children's last known whereabouts, and the unanswered question of whether someone else was out there in the dark that night. If Logan's words hold weight, investigators are now forced to look at two stark possibilities. One, Daniel Martel wasn't simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. He may have been actively trying to hide or move evidence in those final hours. That missing gap in his phone records, the silence from 12:15 to 1:03, suddenly looks less like coincidence and more like intent. If he was outside, restless, pacing, with children's voices carrying from the woods, then his story about staying inside with Malaya Brooks-Murray collapses. 2. Logan's sighting of the second vehicle introduces the chilling possibility of another player. Someone else who arrived at the scene, someone Martel may have been meeting or even relying on. If that's the case, then this wasn't a spontaneous disappearance. It was coordinated, planned, and it suggests the truth may involve far more than a single suspect. And here's where it becomes even darker. If children's voices were truly heard in the tree line that night, then everything the public has been told about the timeline may be wrong. It could mean Lilly and Jack were alive later than investigators suggested. It could mean their disappearance didn't unfold the way official reports have described. That small detail, children's voices near the woods, if verified, doesn't just poke holes in Martel's alibi. It rewrites the entire sequence of events leading up to the moment Lilly and Jack vanished. Logan finally spoke. He told investigators what he saw and what he heard on the night Lilly and Jack vanished. His words landed like a stone in still water, rippling through an investigation already strained by contradictions and shadows. He describes Daniel Martel outside, pacing restless and not alone. He recalls children's voices drifting from the tree line. And he remembers headlights, a second vehicle, cutting briefly across the gravel road before disappearing toward the lake. This statement doesn't just open new doors. It reopens old wounds. For a community desperate for clarity, it revives every question they thought had been put to rest. For investigators, it challenges a timeline they defended and an alibi Martel swore by. So the question now is, will RCMP act on Logan's words? Will they pursue this account with the weight it deserves? Or will his testimony be shelved as just another thread in a case already tangled with secrets, lies, and silence? Because if Logan is telling the truth, then the story of what really happened to Lilly and Jack is far from over. Comment your thoughts below, because this witness account may be the piece of the puzzle everyone has been waiting for. Could Logan's words finally crack the case wide open? Or will they vanish into the same silence that surrounded Lilly and Jack's disappearance from the very beginning?